Welcome to the Kid and Drag Gaming Podcast. This is Kid.
And this is Drag. Remember, if you're enjoying the content, go check us out on our socials. Follow us so we post our latest updates. On Instagram, you can look for us at Kid in Drag. On Facebook, same thing, Kid in Drag. If you're follow us on Twitter, go for Drag Kid In. Also, check out our website at kidindrag.chat. You can find all of our latest episodes. All of our stuff is out there. You can contact us. We can get direct feedback from you and help you get the content you want to hear. Now, let's talk about all the stuff you want to talk about.
And we are back on the second part of our controller episode. We're fixing to dive into the VR.
Absolutely. So we talked and alluded to moving over to this at the beginning of last episode. That's why we wanted to release two back to back and talk a little bit about the VR. I think that is the next evolution. We've had some feedback asking, hey, do a little bit more podcasting on the VR because it is becoming a thing, right? It was cool. It was a test. As we mentioned on the last episode, it really hit home with the advent of the Wii and the advent of the Xbox Connect and kind of integrating that body motion. And it's pretty freaking cool. That's what I have to say. Okay. So, Kid, are you excited about VR? Is this something you've looked into? Or what's been your holdback from going and investing in a bunch of VR equipment so far?
Well, for me, it is people in the room watching me, and I have no idea what they're going to be doing to me, trip me, kick me, or whatever above. So that's kind of held me back. But really, the graphics have never been up to par where I think they need to be. Even current ones now seem kind of starting out PS3 era, like graphic wise, and it just is not where I think it needs to be. But I would say that Creed game looks pretty awesome. Like, I can't fight, so that game looks like you could probably learn some pretty good combos and fighting skills. So I would definitely dive into that one first, or a shooter.
Yeah, I've definitely mentioned that before about my thoughts around the Minecraft game. It's, a low graphics game. I think it translated well to the VR. And I'm there with you that remember when you're transitioning to VR, you're really trying to replicate reality. It's no longer a game mode, but you're tricking your eyes and your body into thinking you're in the game. And that takes a hella graphic improvement, right? And I think that's part of what you're talking about because there's a dissonance. When you play a video game on a PC, it doesn't matter if it's 1080, 4K, 2K, whatever you're playing, you still feel it's a game because it's on a screen, it's dedicated to the game, right? In VR, you're trying to immerse yourself, and that's really hard to replicate humanity, right? It's really hard to replicate the quality of your vision in a 360 circle or 360 sphere that you're trying to replicate that. So there's a pretty big dissonance there, and I can absolutely understand that. What about playing VR? Have you done much playing with VR stuff so far?
Really, as of late, just the popping the phone in a headpiece and checking it
Mhm,
out. I would say like scary games would probably be up there on my list that I would play as well.
mhm.
Especially if you get on there with a friend and run around and try to scare the crap out of each other, kind of like a Left 4 Dead scenario where you got the good guy and then you got the bad guy that's going to try to scare people and pop out in key points, kind of like a haunted house theme.
Yeah, I can understand that, and I think, our interview with Steve Wallet the other day, it was we talked about some of the stuff coming out that they're developing in Australia, and then that's with the servo motors that shut down parts of your body, and you're really actually fighting in a sense, and then the digital replication on a contact lens, right? Some pretty advanced stuff coming out there. But I think ultimately, you're trying to sim a reality, and that boasts a lot of challenges. But we're going to talk about some of the things and the headsets and ways that you could play VR today and really get into what is going to be the fit for you. Okay. So there's 8 headsets we're going to talk about today. We're going to start with some of my favorites are the things that I'm looking forward to using regularly. down to some of the others. And I think it was kind of funny. I was sitting here coding these, color coding, like, do I want to play this? I'm separating these out on my list to talk about. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, yeah, these are going red because this is never going to happen. Right. And I just thought it was funny that I'm sitting there thinking, like, yeah, I'm never going to play that. So mark it in red. We need to talk about it because we got to give a fair view of all the things because people are going to have different opinions. But we're going to start off, and I'm going to say, let's call this best to worst, in my opinion. And by no means take my opinion with a grain of salt. Enjoy it. Use the review like the other 1,000 reviews you're going to go through and understand kind of my viewpoint. Use it to make your decision to make the best purchase for yourself if you're endeavoring to go into VR. So let's start this off with the one that I would least or be least likely to purchase. And mostly because I feel like I would be a stupid idiot to walk around looking like this and the cumbersome nature of this product. And I don't mean to slam them. I know we talk huge things about Nintendo, but this Nintendo Labo VR kit, okay, your resolution's around 1280 by 720. Controls are Joy Cons. It's their Nintendo exclusive thing, which we know Nintendo likes to make their own proprietary thing. You use Nintendo Switch controllers with it. They actually mount to the side of the headset. But, I look at it and I'm like, man, it doesn't really sim VR. And when you look at their marketing materials and whatnot, it really does feel like a kid's venture into VR. And I have concerns with that just because the limited scope of that. But, at the same time, like you look back to the original Nintendos, they geared it towards kids and look at where they are now, right? One of the most revered gaming systems and companies in the world are that have ever been. So, kid, I know I showed you a few pictures of that. Can you picture yourself running around with that stuff held to your head without even a strap to it?
All right, so I just thought of the perfect game that they could do that with that would probably lure kids and adults. What if it was the one you're talking about that's got the box, that's got the controllers mounted on the side? You hold it to your face and you look around like a submarine game where you can launch stuff.
Mhm.
That would be pretty cool. But other than that, it's ridiculous looking. It just seems like your arms would be tired as could be because it's all connected and you got to stick your arm way out there and hold one thing. And yeah, I couldn't do it. There's no way.
Yeah, I don't see any comfortability with playing, and we know as gamers we like to be comfortable because we want to be immersive, and that it looks distracting. And I can agree with the submarine games, but if I'm using that playing the submarine games, I actually want to be drowning to death in the middle of the ocean because that's the only reason I could see myself grabbing onto that thing.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but the way it's marketed to kids, like, cool, maybe it's fun for them. You can see it's not listed anywhere. There might be some copies of this out there that you can get your hands on, but I would suggest my personal self, like, throw it away as fast as you can. If you want to throw away money, go invest in something else like a hammer to whack yourself in the head with, because that would probably be a better experience in VR than this thing. That's my own personal opinion.
Ditto.
So when we're looking at this and really the advent of VR, and from there it scales up very nicely. And I'm gonna go talk about some of the mobile solutions because I think those are the important ones. That was my first experience, and I bought a Samsung phone a couple years ago, and I think they were giving away an Oculus headset with it at that time. So I got to plug my phone into it. It was a really good quality one. I know they've got the Google headsets out there that are made out of cardboard to simulate this. It's pretty simple to do that with the mobile. It's just an app on your phone that rescales the images. But let's look at a couple of these things. So when we're looking at these need mobile, um, your the Nintendo Labo is kind of that way. But what else do you need? Or what else is out there? So you've got the Oculus Go, which was a set that I have. I've got a set right here beside me that I use quite a bit with my Samsung. And then I remembered I hate Android. I know, hate on me for that, but I'm not a fan. I like my stuff to work and work consistently. So I don't go down that way too often. But for the product, it's not bad. It's made by Oculus, which is the biggest name in it. Obviously, Facebook purchased Oculus, and I've been apprehensive and excited because I'm not a huge fan of all their decisions, but at the same time, when you put funding behind a really good product, it's really helpful for the product. So looking at the Oculus Go, just basically snap that in, and you're going to spend, what, around $200 on one of those if you buy it outright. Mine came free, and with the purchase of the Samsung, I think it was a Galaxy S7 or something like that, and I enjoyed it. Okay, it wasn't bad. And you've also got the Lenovo Mirage Solo with Daydream. This is a little bit upgraded, and I think Lenovo's first step into VR, which, if you know Lenovo, it makes a really solid product. I've always felt awkward, like how they fit in the scheme of everything, because it feels like they're manufactured for my peoples, the gamers, that kind of person, but it's a little too expensive. You pay a little bit more than custom built, but they do have a product out there. What's cool about that and the Oculus Go is you're ultimately getting 1280 by 1440 pixel resolution per eye on both of those deals. Now, when you're dealing with a mobile solution, that's not bad. Motion tracking is based on the accelerometers built into your phone. It's pretty cool. But I know, Kid, you mentioned that you've used those, or not specifically those, but the mobile style. What's your general feeling about that so far?
I really did like it. I downloaded a roller coaster game. I think was my first one, and it I can see where people can get sick because it immersed me enough to where I did kind of feel lopsided in some curves and when I was dipping down, and I really enjoyed it. But the problem I think that kind of pushed me away from the cell phone VR is the 15 minutes I played. I took my phone out and about roasted my hand.
Hmm.
And I'm like, oh yeah, no, this is a $600-700 phone or whatever it is at the time. I can only imagine what that's doing to my internals, the battery life, and that was like 15 minutes of play. So ever since then,
Hmm.
I'm like, yeah, I'm done with the phone VR.
Hmm. So, and I would agree with you as far as the phone, and I don't want to misspeak. That's a mobile deal with the Lenovo product, but on the ones that you insert your phone in, so let's stay on focused on those, not get distracted yet. But I had the same exact opinion. I put my phone in there that I just purchased. I got this headset with it. I'm like, oh, I got to go check this out. And it literally felt like my phone was going to burn my hand. So I didn't like that. I know you're really taxing a mobile phone because you got to think about the graphics processing that's going on. It's literally generating two separate, really high resolution images to be able to work with those headsets. I don't think that's the right format. However, with the one exception that I really enjoyed about it, Minecraft I mentioned, it was pretty cool. But when I started doing some of the stock photos that were 360 photos from all over the world, where you could look down at the ground, look at the sky, you look around, you could go stand yourself on the Great Wall of China and look at that. That was really cool because I love photos and all that kind of stuff. That kind of experience for the mobile was pretty neat for
Oh
me.
yeah, absolutely, man. And now that you mentioned that, I've always wanted to go to Egypt. And when you told me about that, the first thing I did was looked up pyramids and did the VR with that, and that was pretty amazing.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, that's to me, that was like the biggest advantage of using the mobile phone. The other thing I use it for is I got a drone that you insert your mobile phone into. Not really made to be true VR, but that same headset technology gave you the split screen to give you more of the 3D imagery, and then you could look out the camera on the front of the drone, and that was pretty cool for an experience. It was made so you could record, but it was also a neat flying experience because you really got to feel that or flying around in the air. And it was a nice drone. You could fly it almost 2 miles away. So pretty cool. That experience for the mobile, pretty neat. Um, Going into a little bit more about the Lenovo Mirage, I'm going to call it a halfway attempt. I think it's to get in the game. I think it's almost a relevance play, but it is supposed to be standalone. And when you look at the game quality that comes in there, I'm a little concerned. So, kid, are you going to go spend $400 on a piece of equipment with questionable game quality?
Oh heck no, there's no way. It's like I said, that's been one of my biggest issues with VR this whole time is the quality of gameplay in itself. It's always seemed a generation two behind what the current technology is. So no,
Right.
I'm not going to go spend $400 on something my console costs 200 and it's got
Mhm.
twice the graphics. Just not there.
Yep. I would agree with that, man, and I'm gonna dive in. So, when you look at that Oculus Go and those are rated about the same, but I'm gonna jump over because I do wanna come back to some of these solutions at the end, because as we get to the last, for me, the very last thing I say takes all things into consideration, and so, I'm gonna say, like, here's what I would do. When I look at the next big thing, these are like mobile standalone. They require some connectivity and whatnot, but the next biggest one and the most common foray into virtual reality is the ones that are tethered to a system. So I don't want to say your computer, but three of the ones I'm going to talk about are tethered to a computer. Then one is tethered to your PlayStation. So rating wise, and this is a value thing as well. When you look at the HTC Vive, and it's a tough call between these two. So you're talking about 475 for the product. You get some. It's 1080 by 1200 per eye resolution. Pretty solid at 474. It has motion tracking. It's got the Vive motion controllers with that. It's pretty cool. It's made to work with Steam VR. So, really neat idea behind it. And I know I mentioned this in an episode when we were talking to Zero Nine about virtual reality. My biggest concern with this and the next couple, and I don't want to slight their technology, but my biggest concern is tethering these things. I'm just in this world like kids thinking about, oh, they're going to look, I'm going to feel like a dumbass, or they're going to reach over and pull my shorts down or something while you're in this virtual reality immersive experience. I am constantly paranoid to the point that I won't go use it because I don't want to plug that into my very expensive graphics card and computer and trip and like jerk it apart. I know they've got these extension cables to help reduce that so it doesn't harm your computer. But you guys all know, you guys have all had phones. When you plug something in over and over again, it eventually starts wearing out. When I lived in Mexico, they called it going wango, and that's kind of what that's the best explanation I have. And I don't want to plug that into a graphics card, which is the most expensive component in my computer.
Yeah, much smaller scale, man. Like talk about tripping over cords and stuff. I had back in the SNES days when memory cards weren't around, I had a kid run through, jerk the SNES off while I was playing, and it crashed, and I lost all my games from it. So I couldn't imagine an expensive computer.
Well, kid, we're gonna have to go over a whole nother episode to figure out how you jerked off a NES. But going on to our next thing, and I put these kind of side by side with each other quality wise, and that's the Oculus Rift. So this is going to give you a little bit upscaled graphics, right? But you're getting a better budget price. So you're going from 474 down to 399, and you're getting 1280 by 1440 per eye. Whereas on the HTC Vive, you're getting 1080 by 1200. Also, one of the key things to keep in mind is your frames per second, your refresh rate. So, any computer gamer, you're going to be very sensitive to this. Console gamers are getting more so because Xbox, one thing they're touting on the new Xbox is that it's going to have 120 hertz refresh rates and all this stuff. It's pretty important. And I think it's critical for VR because the faster that goes, the more it simulates reality and makes it feel smoother. So, with the HTC Vive, at 90 frames per second. They sacrifice 10 frames per second with the Oculus Rift, but you save $74 and you get a little bit better quality graphics. So you're stepping up to 1280 instead of 1080. And it makes it a better buy for me just because of the cost. And it makes it more of the target headset that I would go for. So, kid, what what's your priority when you're looking at this? Like, you're talking about ultimately putting a complex game mounted to your head, and that's going to get you excited about it.
So when I'm looking at this stuff, anything that's going to start getting over 200 bucks. If I'm going to spend anything over that, I'm going to want the best. There's not going to
Mhm,
be anything half-ass about it.
mhm,
So, like you said, I'm going to go for best quality. I don't care if it's the $400 to $600 one. I will go ahead and dump the extra 200 for the 600 one, as
mhm,
long as the quality is there, because that's been my biggest struggle is graphics.
mhm. So, and this is where I, I put this on at the, you know, third highest from the top of the 8, and that's the HTC Vive Pro. Now, I kind of feel like it's a little bit overpriced because you're talking about an $800 price tag. You're doubling the price of the Oculus Rift S. You're almost doubling the price of the little brother, the HTC Vive. What you pick up out of it is you're getting better resolution. So it's a 1440 by 1600. So on a pure quality play, it's stepped up and it comes back up to the 90 frames per second, which is tolerable. But that's where I start getting confused because you can get that with the HTC Vive. So you're basically on in their product line for that company, you're moving from 1080 to 1440, which is a substantial step up. And I agree, but I haven't figured out the compelling reason for me to go get that. I'm putting it up there just because of the quality play, and I know people are hypersensitive about 2K, 4K, and all that kind of stuff, but I just don't feel its place in the marketplace. Am I going to pay double for something I'm only getting a slight improvement on the graphics? I'm not getting any more frames per second, so on and so forth. Makes me a little nervous. So,
Well, I would think at this point, man, is how many games are out there? How many people are playing it for it to be such a big jump in price to get it moving for people to get on board? I think until it hits that, they all need to be very competitive with each other.
mhm. I agree with you, man, because that's where I'm kind of at a loss with the HTC Vive Pro. You get a little bit more stuff. Maybe it's a brag thing. It does look a little cooler. It's a little bit more designed for aesthetics for the view of the product itself, and that's great. But is it worth $400? Probably not. Is it worth or 326 is the difference between the little brother and the Vive? Out of those two, for me, I still go back to the Oculus Rift S. That's the one for me so far. I know the HTC Vive has a little bit different format of controller and all that stuff, and they've got the motion controllers and so on and so forth. It's pretty cool, but I'm still it's one of those things like I'm probably going back to the cheaper version because I don't see the quality improvement to justify almost 2 times the cost. So, wrapping up with number 8, and it's gotta be my favorite, not necessarily on specs and everything else, but it's going back to what Kid talked about. It may not be the best game or the best everything, but it's the playability, okay? And this is the Oculus Quest right now. It's got a 1440 by 1600 per eye resolution. It's coming in at a little bit lower refresh rate at 72 frames per second, which is cool. It's got the Oculus Touch controllers, which is cool, but it's truly a standalone solution. So for me, it's the first one I'm entertaining really investing time and effort into just because the other ones that have the good enough quality, I got to plug it into my computer. You heard my feelings about that. It's not going to happen. Not into my good computer anyway. Maybe plug it into somebody else's computer and try it out.
Try it on mine.
Yeah, there you go. But with this one, it's a standalone, so it's really kind of revolutionized the thought that it's giving a more powerful standalone product, and they rate it as this is best for people just starting out or gamers. Well, yeah, kind of, but it makes it playable for me. Forget about the nitpicky resolutions. I think they'll come up with those. I think those will keep improving. And I think they've got to get these things to 120 frames per second just to make it really competitive and make it feel good for the motion and all that stuff. But just being able to be tether free and go out and play the game, and it's kind of a cool setup that you actually map out the play area and it integrates that back into your headset. So you don't need the controllers or you don't need the sensors around the room. It's built into it. And you can see the controllers in the virtual reality headset. So you see where your hands are. And being mobile makes it wonderful to me. That makes it for what it's supposed to be. VR these VR cafes and things that they have out there, they never got me really excited. It's cool for the experience, but you're kind of done with it after just a couple minutes. This makes it where, yeah, I might pick up and play regularly or watch movies or do those things if I'm truly mobile and it truly is a good solution that I'm not going to tear up a computer and it's smart enough to map out my room so I'm not running into walls and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's probably the go-to for me, even though the gaming quality might be down a little bit, the playability is tenfold these tethered or solutions in your with your phone being used.
Yeah. The thing I'd look forward to the most is like you said, where you can map out your room. And the one thing I've always wanted to see is turning your house into a haunted house. So
Mhm,
once you've got your whole house mapped out, and then it'll just simulate or it'll auto do whatever where it puts ghosts in certain places or where your wall starts to melt. Or I guess that'd be terrible for people on drugs, but you know, I think that'd be evolution in VR is when you can start doing stuff like that.
mhm. Yeah, and I think some of the thing because they're concerned with this amount of data that you're dealing with, right? You put it in a mobile solution, you've got to move around the room. You obviously don't have a $2,000 computer attached to it to help drive it and drive all the processing power. And obviously, VR is going to take a lot of that because you're not just getting an image directly in front of you on a screen that's 27 or 24 inches across or diagonal, but you're producing a 360 image, so it's got to be pretty powerful. But then you got to offload processing power somewhere, right? And it has to happen. I know nanotechnology is getting better and better, and processors are getting smaller. But I think where it really bridges the gap is it starts opening up your shared play, your Xbox, your Steam, allows you to have the game and all the processing power housed on your computer, and you can stream it over your Wi-Fi connection. You can stream it over your home network and play the game on a different unit, but all the processing still going on your computer. I think this Oculus Quest kind of gives the touch of that, where you could ultimately shift over to that. Whether it's fully integrated, I don't know. I haven't had it yet, but that's where that's kind of heading. Is that, yeah, I've got my expensive gaming PC. I'm gonna hook up my wireless headset that's not gonna break my very expensive computer. I can move around, but still use that processing power. That is what I'm excited to see. The Oculus Quest is the beginning of that. The next iterations, I think, are going to upscale and be wonderful. So my buy, don't buy recommendations. If you're going to get into VR, go for the Oculus Quest. If you've got to do it right now, stop and look at that because of the playability factor. If you're willing to wait, I'm telling you, it's going to be good soon and continue to get better really fast because the technology's all out there to make all these things work together. The game streaming over your home network, all those things. You've got advanced cellular connections that could expand that local gameplay to the world, right? Or to areas where you've got really high bandwidth over your cell connections. I think there's a lot of opportunity headed that way very, very quick. So, am I going to go run buy one right now? That's probably not going to happen. But I see all the pieces coming together. This is a good example of what can happen, and I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah,
So,
the
mhm,
ball's definitely rolling on that. I mean, heck, I remember VR being a kid in the
uh-huh.
mall and people trying it out, and you know, it's going to be here. It's going to be evolving, and it's always going to be around. So I think it's finally getting to where it needs to be, and I definitely look forward to it. It's just I think right now it's not for me.
Yep, I'm kind of in that same boat because when I want to go invest money in something, I really get picky about do I want it to really work and have a pretty confident expectation that I'm going to enjoy it, but not just for the one time. I've got a whole room full of crap that I've purchased, got excited about, and I just don't use it. Right?
Hmm.
I don't want that with this because I'm kind of reluctantly excited because when it happens, I think it can be great. I think it can be revolutionary, but if it's not executed well, I worry about it. So that's what I got about VR today. I hope the double episode was worth it for you. I know we had some listeners out there asking about those episodes, talking about VR. I hope that answered some of your questions around it. If you're going to buy today, really look at that Oculus Quest. Give it a once over. If you definitely want to get the highest quality for the best price, the Sony PlayStation VR is not bad if you're a Sony player. If you're a PC player, I'm still giving the recommendation going back to the Oculus Rift S. That's going to be my number one for the price and the capabilities of it. But that's just my overall feeling. If you just want to taste VR and you want to enjoy and experience that Oculus Rift, if you're going to go ahead and take it to your PC and get a little bit more advanced play, a little bit higher resolution and whatnot, then, well, not even higher resolution, but get a little bit better frame rates and a little bit more powerful games, then take a look at the Oculus Rift S. That's what I got for you today, folks.
And be sure this episode's been brought to you by, well, you guys. You requested it and we did it. So if you got any other requests or something you want to hear about, be sure to drop it. Let us know and we'll get it on here. Until then, we'll holler at you later.
Later. And that's all we got to talk about today, folks. This is Drag.
And this is Kid. If you enjoyed our cast, make sure and check out our website, follow our socials. We love feedback. You give it, we'll talk about it.
You can find us at kidindrag.chat on our website. For Twitter, it's dragkidin. For Instagram, it is kidindrag. Same for Facebook, Kid and Drag. We take feedback on all of those social platforms, and we'll see you next time.
Later.